The internet was probably too slow. All right. You just post the agenda here in the chat. Hello, Madeline.
Hi. I'm on the right one now. Yay.
Yes, yeah, we tried to do an on-air one, and it looks like everybody was here, so we just kind of did the democratic thing and went where everybody else was. So,
okay, because Willow's on the other one.
Yeah, we were all just there. There were 5 of us over there, and now there's everybody over here. I guess the invitation to the live hangout just didn't get through to everybody before they had joined this one. So we will move. And like I said before, I'm just going to record my screen for this, and then I'll upload that to YouTube, and that will hopefully suffice for a live broadcast slightly delayed. So, welcome everybody. What I want to do first is just get this rolling and start with introductions. And what I'll do is I'll just call on each and every one of you in order on my screen and just have you speak briefly about what's your name, what space are you from, what city are you in, and because it's the night before Thanksgiving, what's something you're thankful for from the previous year? And by way of welcome, this is the November 2012 Space Federation monthly Google Hangout and call-in, where we get together as leaders and founders and facilitators of collaborative and creative spaces around the US in order to share our ideas, practices, successes, and just generally connect with one another. This is a program of the School Factory, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we are always happy to accept your donations in order to continue our efforts and support places like this around the nation. So, with that, I'm going to call on you, David Brightbill. Tell us.
Oh, hey there. So, Dave Brightbill from Holland, and I'm representing Tallahassee Makerspace called Making Awesome, and I'm coming to you from the beautiful island of Maui right now, where I'm very.
Thank you. Donald.
Hey, I'm Donald Abrams from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm here representing Digital Harbor Foundation and the Future Makers. I'm formerly of Barrel Makers in Delaware.
Awesome. Ethan.
Hey, this is Ethan Chu from Mojave Makers in Mojave, California. We're a new startup hackerspace as of this year. Wow, it's been a hell of a year for me, and what I'm thankful for is that through all this time and all the changes happened for me and everything, that I've had people and friends that have been there for me, and I thank you for all the time, your patience, your grace, and everything else that you've helped me with, and that gives me a lot of cause for humility and thanks there. So thank you.
Awesome. Jeff.
Oh, hi, I'm Jeff Nicholson, calling in from QLab in Albuquerque, and not really sure a good suggestion for being thankful, but I'm thankful I've got a garden I can work on now, so I've got something to do on the off season when I'm not hacking.
Yeah.
Wonderful. My name, I'm next because I'm on the little row of pictures there. My name's James Carlson. I'm the founder and director of the School Factory and of Bucketworks, along with others. And I am really thankful for all of the awesome stories that I've heard this year about people doing amazing things in places like all of yours. And also for the chance that I get to be involved with Bucketworks here in Milwaukee and see some of the things we've been able to do. I never thought I'd get to do this sort of thing with my time, and I'm really grateful that I've been able to do this for another year. It's just been awesome. Jen May.
Oh, hello. Maybe you can even see me now. I'm Jen May Wu. I'm representing Liberating Ourselves Locally. We are a people of color led gender balanced makerspace in East Oakland, California. And I'm thankful that I have a network connection right now, but that may change at any point since I am in transit between San Francisco and Oakland. So we shall see what happens.
Awesome. Thanks for joining, Alicia.
Alicia Sterling. I'm currently abroad. I am a member of Mothership Hacker Moms, but I'm not representing them at the moment. I'm also working with the School Factory on a program to help hackerspace educators called the Teachers Conference. And sometimes I also teach at Jigsaw Renaissance in Seattle. And next week I'm teaching at the the Glasgow hackerspace.
Wonderful. Madeline?
Hi, I'm Madeline. I'm the executive director of Idea Engine, hailing from Dallas. Was a founding member of Freeside Atlanta a while back. I'm grateful for an entire year of just absolute shenanigans. I've been pretty heavily ingrained in the startup community in Dallas, which most people don't know is pretty amazing. And now we've launched Idea Engine, which has just been fantastic.
Wonderful. Pete.
Hi, James. I feel like I haven't seen you in, like 24 hours or something. Actually, I'm in Milwaukee as well, just like James is. I'm a member of Milwaukee Makerspace, and we are considering joining the Space Federation, so I thought I'd jump into this call. I've also been involved with Bucketworks and School Factory for the last 6 or 7 years, doing bar camp and some other events.
Wonderful. Thank you. And finally, Travis.
Hey there, James. Hello, everybody. I'm here representing Nova Labs, which is in Northern Virginia. And what I'm thankful for is the fact that just beyond my laptop screen here is my daughter visiting us from college and preparing dinner for us. We'll see whether or not it ends up being ultra yummy or not, but I'm just happy that she's here.
That's wonderful. Awesome.
So see her in the reflection.
Yeah, you can kind of see into the room there, so cool. Okay, so I posted a link to the agenda in the chat. I'm going to do that again. And I'm just letting folks know it's a full hangout. Yes, full hangout. Live recording to be posted shortly. Just want to go through a few of the items that we have on the agenda. But first, the second point we want to do is just, are there any upcoming events that any of you want to announce that you're having in your space? Again, URLs, dates, if you can, add those to the document as well so we can share that out. But anything major you want to report out on or let us know about?
This is not yet official, but given December 21st, 2012, we are planning to have an end-of-the-world party, survival training, potlucks, revival party. In Mojave Makers is what we want to do. And thereafter, we will also have the survival gear garage sale in January for all the stuff you didn't use in December.
Wonderful. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to say that we have a lease in hand now for Tallahassee. We expect to sign it December 1st and have occupancy of our building right after that. We got a sweet deal, and we're very lucky. We have about 6 months to get our membership up to a level where the place will support itself, so it's going to be a busy 6 months.
Very good. Anyone else? Lisa,
So I'd like to share the fact that Random Hacks of Kindness is coming up November 30th through December the 2nd. And Willow Brew from Kids Without Bounds is the organizer for the San Francisco Random Hacks of Kindness. But if you're not in San Francisco, there are random hacks all over the country, actually all over the world. So find one, join one. They're cool.
Yeah, I can testify to that. It is really fun to be involved. Pete, when is the Makerspace actually moving?
We're still kind of in the process of preparing the building, but we could be in there before the end of this year. So, I want to say January 1st we will be in the building out of our current space. How operational will be, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm thinking January 1st we're in there.
Awesome. That is awesome work. Cool.
Launched our Kickstarter campaign on Monday.
What's your goal?
65 grand.
Wow.
Yeah,
Awesome.
we're being ambitious, but we have some heavy donors that I've been in discussion with the last couple of days. So a lot of that I think is going to get taken up by donors and sponsors. But we're ambitious. But that launched on Monday, and we've been doing pretty well so far.
Wonderful. That's excellent.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Make sure to share the links with us so that we can pass them on.
I will do.
With less flashlight.
All right. So, going to segue from that because there will be a good way for us to share some of that information later in the agenda that we'll share with you. We want to help you do some more of the promoting activities over the course of the next couple of months, and we have some new resources for that. But I'm going to launch into some of these projects that we've been working on in the agenda that we said we would share with you. The first of which is a organizational policy handbook. Now, this is something that we've worked on. Megan has put in a lot of time on to develop, and her and I talked earlier, by the way, and I just want to speak on her behalf that she is actually paying attention to this and is involved, but we decided to sacrifice slots in the Hangout so more guests could join. If we had watched the live, she'd be there, and she's on the chat and live in the event now. But what she did is publish a human resources handbook for spaces. And this is, I'm sharing the link right now in the chat. What this is designed to do is give spaces a handbook for feedback. Not necessarily, we're not imposing this policy, but we're giving it to you as a draft to think about all the things that a healthy organization should think about. How to be an equal opportunity employer, for example. How do you put that in writing that that's the way you work? If you pay people, how do you track their pay? And if you look at the outline headings in this document, there's an introduction, worker classifications, earned pay, organization policies, benefits, risk management, performance management, harassment and workplace violence, and then separation from payroll and or volunteer capacities with some acknowledgments. So these are meant to be just templates for you to look at. We are looking for and hoping that we'll get some feedback from you. We want to get some comments on these notebook pages from you and helping us develop these things so that we can make these resources even richer. And so on Atrium, there's a add new comment link on the bottom of each page where you can put your discussions. It's also a wiki, so if you have a user account and you want to make edits and make comments on those things, we'd love that. But what I'd really encourage as a matter of organization is for each of you to share a link to this with your fellow board members over the next couple of months and just invite them to take a look at it, review it, and think about ways you might take advantage of this. Some of you may already in your spaces have developed some of these policies, and if you have, please share those with us too. We'd love to see what kinds of things you've come up with for addressing some of these topics. Any questions on that before I move on to the next topic?
When you say equality, are you talking and equal opportunity employers? You're talking about makerspaces actually having actual on-payroll employees of the 501c3 nonprofit, whatever status you have. Is that what you're referring to here?
Yeah, the language of the handbook is written for, in some cases, the idea of people getting paid to do work for the space. Now, that might include not only employees, but even contractors. You might hire someone to do work for the space, and it's important to just have a normal way of agreeing about how you're going to do that and having a policy around it. Some spaces we've worked with have paid staff. For example, Bucketworks has a paid director, and we see that as more places mature and grow, having someone whose job it is to make things work and keep things running starts to make a lot of sense. But not every space has to do that. So this is, again, more of a draft container for people to look at.
Understood.
Any other?
Another extension of that question, if I may. My understanding is that some nonprofit groups, that because they hold nonprofit status, they can have the activities of their respective board, volunteers, whatever, count hours of what they do for the makerspace as contributions to that 501c3. Is that a correct case, as I understand it, or am I misunderstanding what I've seen?
It's a good question. In-kind donations of services and time by board members, it's harder to account for in-kind donations, and what we've seen from the IRS is that they kind of look askance at the donation of time and services as a tax write-off. What they're really looking for is cash and stuff.
So I can't say like I spent 40 hours sitting in a board meeting over the past year as an item is what you're saying.
Yeah, no, not really. If for example, you had to travel in order to go to a board meeting, and the board could then compensate you for your travel expenses, that sort of thing is legal. But it's just not legal for you to claim a tax write-off for your engagement as a volunteer with these efforts.
Gotcha. Thanks,
All right.
James.
Any other questions about the operations manual and what to do with it? All right. Well, then we're going to move on. The next thing is much more relevant and pertinent because it actually has a deadline. We rarely ask you as spaces to do stuff that you have to do, but this relates to taxes. And what this is about is making sure if your space is fiscally sponsored by the school factory, that we get a report from you on the income that you've processed from us and what you've done with it. What we've done is we've provided a spreadsheet template that you can use to capture data relating to your income and expenses for 2012. This is so that we can prepare your taxes. As you know, the Space Federation does the federal tax returns for you. So we need you to give us the data so that we can file your tax returns. And the nice advantage of that is once we're finished doing the federal tax return, a lot of the information we plug into it will probably be useful to you in filling out your state return. So you'll be able to copy and paste a lot of that information and the numbers into that state tax return. If you can, as of January 1st, you'll be able to fill it out for all of 2012. What we're asking is for you to have this done by February 8th, 2013. We can and will coach you through it, help you through it if you need assistance in filling out this data, but we're really just looking for this information so we can finish your tax returns. Any questions on that from anyone?
Nope.
All right. Like I said, if you have any... What's that? If you need any help, let us know and we will help you.
James, can I just make sure that I understood? You're looking for a report that says what were all of the donations that we received and then what we did with those funds. And you're shooting for February 8th, is that correct?
Yeah, in this case, what we're doing is asking the form, we're basically just looking for the numerical accounting, what you did with the money that you were given. If you didn't get any, it's easy. It's zeros. If you did, then just give us the information about that.
Now,
James, go ahead. A quick question, James. So that's as of the date that we entered into agreement with you guys, right?
Yeah, it'd be anything that you... Yep, anything you did in the calendar year of 2012, chronologically, in those months. So I know you guys are just getting started. If we get, some donations before you between now and the end of the year, that would be the kind of thing we'd be looking for.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on that?
Yeah, I got a question, James. You mentioned that was primarily only information for anything processed through the Federation. Anything we do locally, like memberships or anything else like that, or even small little donations that would have been more trouble to run through you guys than anything else, go ahead and just omit those?
That's right. Yeah, you don't need to... That sort of information's more relevant for your local state tax return. But the form itself provides pretty... Megan took great trouble in writing out the instructions on how to fill out the form and what information to provide. But this is mostly about the funds that have flowed through the 501c3.
Okay.
Any other questions on that? Cool. This is really good because these are the kinds of things that we've been working on organizing more for a while, and now that we're reaching a kind of critical mass with the Federation, it's really been very exciting to build tools like this and keep us friendly with the man. Okay, next topic is safety and risk management policies. This is another tool that Megan has worked really hard to create that is about creating a safe environment for your members. And what we've done is, again, in the Space Federation group in Atrium, publish the whole guide. And I'll just read through the outline, the high-level topics: bloodborne pathogens, clean air, clean work areas, concealed carry, disaster recovery, which can be of great relevance if you just weathered a huge hurricane or are in a place where there's weather conditions that threaten, drug-free workplace, fire policy, hazardous materials, on-the-job injuries, accidents, and illness, and then reporting accidents and injuries, and tornado and hurricane emergencies. So these things are all there as drafts. The idea is choose what fits your needs, but what we're looking for spaces to do is, again, as a board, look over these policies, think about what's relevant to you, flesh out the policies that you currently have with these if there are gaps. If you have existing safety plans that you can share with us, please publish them in the notebook. Just create a new notebook page and copy and paste or share a link to what you've already published in your Space Wiki or other resources. Our idea is to try to refine this and have this in a very nice, polished form by March of 2013. There's some practical reasons for having a safety and risk management policy in your space, and one of them is just getting insurance. The school factory maintains a pretty comprehensive liability policy for bucket works in Milwaukee, and that policy costs us about $1,700 a year just to have coverage for accidents and events and things that go wrong and all that stuff. One of the things that insurers will ask for is this safety policy, and if you have one, it can help with your premiums. But, you know, beyond just being money, it's just healthy to have a healthy and safe space and make sure that you've thought about these things from an operational perspective. So again, we're asking for your feedback and input, and make comments, share what you've already done, so that we can package this stuff in March. Any questions on that?
If I may make a comment live.
Go for it.
When you're setting up a makerspace, does what you're saying about setting up a safe workspace and work environment, does that necessarily open you up to fall under OSHA regulation, OSHA requirements, or what would normally be expected out of a heavy industry, or is this just more intended to be fit for what makerspaces do, which is just kind of lightweight manufacturing stuff? I mean, are we kind of setting a precedent that we're going to need to start complying with OSHA regulations, which can become on its own for a makerspace a costly endeavor to get the right equipment and the right certification and training?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think in this case, because the folks in spaces are members, OSHA regulations don't apply the same way that they would apply to an employee. So I don't think that's the level we're looking at. However, if we make our spaces safer than OSHA requires, even for members, then we all win anyway. And it's good for people in our spaces who, you know, many spaces have entrepreneurs starting businesses and are looking for, you know, guidelines and templates on how to do that. And if your space can offer them that type of environment, that's just good for the community as a whole. So another area where this might help you, instead of thinking of OSHA, is maybe to think of inspectors. If your city inspectors come in, and they look at your space and they see all these confusing tools and equipment arrayed in a public way, but then you say, hey, guess what? We have a safety policy for all this stuff. We have a way of dealing with these tools that makes it good for our members and healthy for our community. They're likely to be, you know, more accepting of what you're doing. And a lot of their code certification documents ask for these kinds of things anyway. So if you already have them, you can just go, hey, inspector, here's our safety policy. We're ready to rock. Does that make sense?
Kind of a concern, and partly to play devil's advocate. my concern about that and what you're proposing is it works for that inspector, but does it continue on and carry on as the document flow down occurs? Like, you described it as if an entrepreneurship decides we want to use the same safety standards as what our host space is doing, and they're either found to be deficient and an accident occurs. I mean, will that entrepreneurship turn around and say, our hackerspace said this is perfectly fine, and now one of our members are dead or maimed or whatever? I mean, are we going to have that kind of flowback problem? And are we also going to have that flow forward problem that if what we say is not sufficient for the people we're serving or hosting, are they going to come back to us when an accident happens and say, your fault? You know, I mean, that's kind of a concern.
Yeah, it's a good question. And the way the liability would work is because, so let's say a person's working for a business that's a member in a space. The liability goes to that business, not to the space. Even if that business chose to use the policies of the space, that doesn't make the space liable for it. So it's more insulated, I think, and less of a real concern, right? There's definite relationships. Now, if the space were to offer the employment services or to, take on a significant role in operating that business, it might be different. But typically it's, each organization unto itself is sort of how that part works as far as how it relates to its employees.
So by not holding any kind of ownership of said place, you're effectively putting a firewall between you and whatever that business does.
That's right.
Understood. I assume then that if you're in a place like a co-working space or where they require ownership, you to give partial ownership of the company you have, and that means that they have a much more in-depth documentation about what these guys can do and everything.
Yeah, very much so. Like I said, if spaces take a controlling interest in a business that's a member, they should probably tell us about that, and we can coach them through the process of how to make sure it's legally safe for all concerned. Any other questions about the safety policy? All right. Okay, item D, this is just another important announcement we're adding, and this is really for the good of all of us, but also for our insurance purposes. We've created, and Megan has created, an accident report process. We set up an accident report form, and it's got a short link, just like our donation form, donate to space. This is accident in space. So if you have an injury or an accident in your space, please fill out this form just so that we can be aware of the issue that's occurred, as well as for your purposes to have documentation of what happened. It's a good idea to document anything that goes wrong. There's also a printable version of the form that you could maybe print out a couple of copies and put them physically in your space so that people can fill it out if the internet's not working or something like that. So, this is, again, just a tool, but what it'll help us do is ensure that we're able to improve safety and improve insurance and all these other things if we can track these things. Funders and grant makers will look for safety in spaces, especially if you want to have kids, ask for funding from different sources. So knowing we've got safe spaces will help along that route. Any questions on how to use the accident and injury reporting forms? All right. I know these aren't the most exciting things ever, but they're just part of the business of being in the Federation. Like I said, I think part of the reason why we've invested a lot of time and energy in building these tools is because if we all get better at this stuff and make ourselves organize our organizations more, it's just going to strengthen the whole movement of places like this. And also, we're really trying to take some of the headache away from the boards of spaces. Writing all these kinds of documents, building all these tools takes time and energy. And if there's ways that these templates can help you accelerate the process, then that's what we're all about. So on to some more exciting things. We are finally ready to form an advisory board for the Space Federation. Those of you who have been involved with founding a space or have been engaged in a space as a leader for more than 3 years, and whom we've reached out to before, will shortly receive an invitation to join our advisory board. And we're really looking for some advice on what to do in 2013, as well as some major decisions to make. We're going to be looking at group exemption and fiscal sponsorship, and what are the differences between the two, and how might we roll that out with the spaces. We're also looking for advice on what would be the best areas for us to focus on in 2013 and how to help you better. And for the first few years of this, we kind of, Willow and I and other people I talked to, I kind of just filtered all the advice through my head and then did what made sense based on that input. But now we want to make it a little bit more formal. So we're looking for insight, and shortly many of you will receive an invitation to join our advisory board. And we're going to set up a hangout in early December, just to meet each other and talk about what we want to try to do in 2013. Also want to prep you to think between now and December's hangout. What do you want us to do? Obviously, we want input from you on 2013 planning and what would make the most sense for us to focus on next year. So if you have ideas, please get in touch with me and let me know what would be the most useful thing for the Federation to focus on in 2013. One idea that came out of Travis, who I'm sorry he departed, is local ecosystems. Right now in Milwaukee, we have Bucketworks and the Milwaukee Makerspace collaborating on an event that actually happens on Friday, and many other things. Willow, before we jumped on the call, shared an example of a story in Seattle where an individual created a project using all of the spaces in Seattle to build each and every aspect of the project. And that sort of thing is really amazing. How many of you are in places, in cities where there are other collaborative spaces, other places that seem like they're in the same philosophical vein, but maybe in a different model? Maybe they focus on arts, or maybe they're a for-profit. What is your thought on how we can build ecosystems where, instead of seeing each other as competitors, we see each other as collaborators? Maybe we think of ways to share our members, or maybe we think of ways to partner on events. I'd just be interested in any feedback you have on that idea.
I think that the Oakland, Berkeley, the San Francisco East Bay area is an especially good example of that. At this point, it's sort of, well, not sort of, it's totally ad hoc, but the relationship between the different hacker spaces and also Techliminal, which is a technology salon, is really amazing. The way that everybody helps everybody out, and people get involved with fundraisers and events at each of the different spaces is, I don't know, really exciting to me. It'd be neat to do some sort of like a study of what has been going on there, especially in the last year or so. And actually, I guess I should include not just the East Bay. It's the East Bay and also San Francisco. There's quite a cluster there of different hacker spaces and maker spaces with different philosophies or different focuses. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's LOL, Jen May was on earlier. Mothership Hacker Moms has seen incredible success, and I know Pseudo Room.
Ace Monster Toys.
Ace Monster Toys.
And all of us have had support and contact with Noisebridge. Noisebridge has been really supportive of all of the East Bay hacker spaces, and other hacker spaces as well. And then even some spaces that aren't that don't think of themselves as hacker spaces, like the Crucible, which is an arts place. Basically anything you would do with fire is what happens at the Crucible. And they've come out for like the Pseudo Room fundraiser, and they've been involved with some of the hackerspace cooperation stuff. So that's been really cool too.
Other comments on this topic?
This comes from Mojave Makers. Although we are rather insular in our own little community as being the only hackerspace, I found that a lot of collaboration that has helped us open up to the community and help us survive, as well as make us, as what you described as collaborative to other people, is being able to attach yourself to the community, find out what's going on, and help fill what needs you can in your capabilities. Namely, we're helping out with making Mojave a more attractive place to live, and also giving people a community center, a community focus where they can hang out and have fun and share ideas. That's one way. Being a startup, though, we're still fairly nascent in this capability, so we've been just talking to the community and getting to know them and getting our name out to grow and mature into that scene.
Mm-hmm.
On a side note, one other more mature example I saw this weekend in Mesa, Arizona was Heatsink Labs. They have a hackerspace set up in a downtown shop, and they have a very, as what I witnessed from my visit, a very vibrant community that consists of everyone from hobbyists to hackers to people and entrepreneurs running their own businesses in the co-working space. And after discussing with board members and seeing how it was done, the one pattern that they mentioned was being able to specialize in a specific niche of the maker community.
Mm-hmm.
He said that he often gets a lot of projects that come to his door, and some of them he turns away because they don't fit the space. But the way he does it is he says, I don't think that we can really help you here at Heatsink Labs, but I do know of some co-workers down the street. I do know of some collab spaces or a fab shop that would be able to help you. So I mean, in that sense that these people you would expect them to be in competition, but the fact that they're referring each other to people that wouldn't fit their specific need, they're able to not compete with each other and be able to focus on a specific specialty of making that makes them all kind of collaborate in a business sense. That's what I observed.
Just today, I spoke with some folks involved with forming a place called Fertilab in Eugene, Oregon, and they're working with Eugene Makerspace, but their mission is to create a bio lab, like a science lab, a community science lab. And with their makerspace and I think a couple of other community groups trying to get a larger building than they might otherwise get if they were working independently. And even though each space will have its own unique focus, the idea that they could share resources and work together is really strong. But they're already kind of aligned in terms of values. What I'm really interested in is, as you brought up the example, Ethan, of spaces that are, maybe totally different. We've got a for-profit and a non-profit. We've got tech shops seeing, seeing maker spaces in their neighborhoods where there is a tech shop as a good thing instead of as a competitor, and ways we can do that. Travis Good has been really, he and I have been talking a lot about this. He's been really thinking a lot about this and has proposed some models. Imagine if you went to a tech shop with your membership card to your makerspace, and that meant that you got a lower cost. I think there's a real advantage in exploring these models and thinking of ways to translate values, because a lot of times it's like we just don't speak the same language. So how do we help these other groups understand what we're doing, and kind of what can we bring to the table and what can they bring to the table, and how can we find how those things match? And so I'd like us to think of ways to be good leaders and facilitate that, because it'll just make the whole ecosystem stronger. Diversity is good. So I really appreciate your input on that, and we'll be asking for more of it in the coming months. Go ahead, Jeff.
I wanted to point out that QLab actually sort of got out of the co-working environment, partially because we really didn't have the setup for it. And this was the winter that we didn't have heat, so our coworkers didn't like sitting in front of their laptops and their parkas. So we did get out of the market at that point in time because we didn't really have it, but there's a handful of more co-working spaces in Albuquerque now, which we're sort of trying to get to be friends with, so that we know what they've got going on. and what they have needs for versus what we've got. I mean, we've got the workshop, we've got our 3D printer, and they've got Wi-Fi and coffee. And so we're sort of trying to work out how we can do that. And, you know, once people have gotten far enough that they need a workshop to work on projects, to have them come over and work on their projects here. Or it actually turns out that we're down the street from a tech shop clone called Fab Lab. They've got a handful of other 3D printers, not necessarily rep wraps, and I think they've got a plasma cutter and a couple of shop bots. So they've got all the stuff for fabrication. And we and QLab have been sort of considering how can we set up some sort of exchange with them. Their sort of setup is they want to be a job shop rather than a membership-driven organization. And so we originally had thought we'd be able to do sort of a collaborative thing where, like you were talking about with the tech shop thing, where if you've got a Fab Lab membership, that gets you $10 a month off of your QLab membership, or vice versa. But since they're gone towards more the job price, we're not sure how to collaborate with them as best we can. But your idea about sharing space might actually be useful too. I don't know if they're looking to expand. I know we are. And a lot of the spaces we've found are just too big or too expensive at that way. But if they want to come along with us, that might be one way of getting some along. So I'll bring that up.
Excellent.
If I may drop a comment live there and an observation.
Go ahead, Ethan.
I noticed that this is something that we've also tried out in Mojave Makers community. We're working on setting up, saying that we have X number of members. If a local business or shop gave our members a discount for buying stuff to support their making, like the hobby shop, the hardware store, whatever, can we set up a collaboration like that? And I feel that what you're describing for K-Lab, if you could say, I've got X number of K-Labbers who are interested in doing jobs at your tech shop where we can't do them at K-Lab, that could be a prelude and a business case that would set up the collaboration between you and the tech shop fellows there.
That sounds like a good idea, and we're also pursuing that with some of the sponsors we have from the Maker Faire. They were kind of interested in what was going on in the whole concept of a hackerspace. We actually got the space that helped us out. We processed a donation from Intel, actually, to help run things at the Maker Faire. And we're looking at some of the other sponsors we had going on with that as well to see if we can get some, if nothing else, discount cards from, hey, we're from QLab. Here's our membership card, I'm from QLab. Or if we're just going to start doing bulk buys and do a QLab canteen. I'm not sure what we're working on there.
It sounds awesome. Well, good. I'm gonna move us on because we've got only 7 minutes left before the top of the hour to the next topic, which is, well, actually, I'm gonna do one more logistical thing, and then I want to send us out with stories of what's been working this past year at each space. Just good news you want to share. Jen Turner is our Director of Communications at the School Factory, and she has been supporting spaces to get PR, marketing, social media, blasts out on what's going on. So what we've done is set up a forum online where you can tell us about the things you're doing that you want us to PR it up about. So I've pasted a link in there. Please let us know what stories you want us to share, and we will integrate them into marketing and PR efforts, as well as we're starting to really work on our new website for the School Factory and the Space Federation. And we want to try to, again, highlight your stories, highlight what you're doing. But use this when there's something specific you want us to talk about. Something high profile, if you're doing a Kickstarter, Indiegogo, fundraising efforts, a grant you're working on, something earth-shattering like discovering life on Mars. Thank you, JPL. We want to know about that and brag about it. And so with that, I'm gonna give you each a chance now. Just tell us what's working, what's going well. David, why don't you send us out with something positive?
Oh, good. Well, I just want to say that we're so excited about our space. We have about 5,000 square feet of space we're moving into in another few weeks, and we have the Lambda rail coming into our building for free, which is the high-speed educational internet system that the state of Florida has. So we got a sweet deal on that, and we're kind of co-locating at a local community college. They had an empty building, and it's working out well for everybody, it looks like. So we're a new startup, and wish us luck. That's all I can say.
That's awesome. We will wish you luck. Donald, I saw you were posting some stuff. Tell us about this.
They're closing down recreation centers in Baltimore last year, and so we managed to convince the city to give us one of them. And so we just got possession November 1st. We're painting and getting this thing worked up. We got our brand new replicators in, and we got the computers going up, and we're getting more and more tools, and we got free basically wireless high-speed internet, like 100 megabits per second, just given to us. They want to make us their show model. I mean, everything's going really well for that. And then on the other front, on Future Makers, we're having meetings with Enoch Pratt Library. They're very interested in starting to run maker programs in the library system here in Baltimore. We're trying to get makers out of the woodwork to volunteer and tell the libraries what they need. And they're actually highly interested in this. It's not like we're pushing them into it.
They want to do it.
So
that's great. Ethan.
Yes, Mojave Makers actually had the benefit of having the extension of support from the airport that's hosting us. We're on the Mojave Air and Spaceport's property, so we had a meeting with the board last month, and they decided they're going to extend our free rent and give us more time to help establish ourselves, support the community. And we're also becoming famous in the town. We recently gained about 5 new members, and to the credit of Mojave and the efforts to revitalize it, several of the new airport workers who joined up said that I'd like to live in Mojave because there's a makerspace here.
Oh, that's great.
So that's a 3-person contribution to turning Mojave around and making it a livable town here.
Awesome. That's great. Jeff.
So far, the big thing for us was the Maker Fair. That went over fantastically well. We had a lot of turnout. We haven't really seen a bump in numbers yet. We're still wondering what we need to do to capitalize on that, but we're hoping maybe it's a month lead time. We're waiting for the new year or whatever. But the big thing that we've really been doing at the space ourselves has been our classes. That's gone over really well. Folks have been turning out for those, and it also helps paying the rent. So I'm really glad with our classes, and hope to keep those running through next year as well. And there's one other thing that I was thinking of. I think it was, people know our name. That's the good thing. People know us around town.
Awesome.
They're using us as the prototype booth for the comic book convention in town. We're on the marketing page as, look at this awesome booth. You could be like these guys. So we're really looking forward to the new year and what else we can do and growing and bigging and hoping we can move to a new space too.
Oh, wonderful. We'll be watching for news on that, because I know you guys have been in too small of a space, right? It's time to get big. That's great. I'll say just Bucketworks is rocking it. There's just been a lot of really great activity, a lot of growth. We've had a lot of great events. Bar Camp 7 was great. We had Build Health as well, which was awesome. We got a bunch of folks together just to talk about how to make healthcare or health not a reactive economy, but a proactive one. And bringing together higher ed, medicine, research groups, and so forth to talk about that is a really good conversation, and a real pleasure to host that. So a lot of really great successes in the last few months. Leisha.
So there's nobody else from Hacker Moms, so I will speak up for Hacker Moms. There's been so much exciting stuff going on with Hacker Moms. We had a Kickstarter. We surpassed our goal, which was really fantastic. We didn't reach our stretch goal, but we did surpass our initial goal. So
it was 10K, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a bit more than 10K.
More than 10K.
It's 9 o'clock.
And
it's 7 o'clock here. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's 3 in the morning.
Go ahead.
Anyway.
Blew it out.
So, that was really exciting, and part of what's been really interesting with Mothership Hacker Moms is that simply existing is this, feminist political statement just to call it Mothership Hacker Moms, and the haters have come out of the woodwork. Oh my my god. If you go back and look at the Boing Boing article on us, Boing Boing is usually very, very cool when it comes to things like this. Holy cow! Like I said, haters came out of the woodwork. But what's been really interesting is how makers from other spaces have come out in defense of Mothership Hacker Moms and said, yes, actually there is a need for this. Yes, we understand why they're doing this and we want to support them. And then on the International Hackerspaces list at, hackerspaces.org, there was this whole conversation and all these people saying, these guys are doing cool things, let's support them. That was really inspirational and heartening. And of course, what's really, really inspirational is the fact that when women find out about Hacker Moms, they contact us and say, how can we do this where we are? So clearly there's a need, and it's very exciting to be pioneering that.
Yeah, the story's getting around a lot. A lot of the new groups I talk to, I bring up Hacker Moms as a model of inspiration for welcoming diversity, and people I think are encouraged by what's going on there. So, Pete.
Here in the UK, I've had people go, oh yes, I've been following the story of Mothership Hacker Moms. And I'm like, really?
That's awesome. Pete, what's good?
Oh, well, I'll start with, so 2 days ago, actually, I was amazed, too, that people were hating on the Mothership Hacker Moms, so I kicked out a blog post on that, and it got shared a bunch on Facebook as well. I think people were, like I said, I'm fully supportive of you guys. I think it's amazing. It's great. So I was shocked that people are complaining, but people complain about anything. So yeah, best of luck to you guys. And we're trying to get more diversity in our membership. We have just a handful of women. We'd like a lot more women, robots, men, whatever. We like everybody. But basically, yeah, Milwaukee Makerspace we're still kind of considering joining the Space Federation. We just need to make sure everyone's comfortable with that. Like I said, we're moving from a 6,000 square foot space to a 16,000 square foot building. We're going to expand our capabilities, start doing classes, larger events, and working with Bucketworks, hopefully.
Yeah, you guys having a building with a door that enters directly onto the surrounding neighborhood will be amazing. Because I'll tell you, last night I went to the Makerspace meeting, and I was blessed knowing the code to open the gate that secures the complex where it's located deep inside of a thing. But there was some guy who was new, and he was just wandering around in the dark, and I was like, are you here for the Makerspace? He said, yeah, I am. I'm so glad I found you. I had no idea how to get in. So it's going to be a really big sign of growth for you to be in a public place. I'm so excited to see what that does.
It's been called a secret lair, hidden cave. Yeah, basically we're in this industrial complex, and our landlords were great at first, and then they weren't as great, and then they decided that they were going to put up this big fence, and then we couldn't even get in until they gave us the code. So everyone every member that comes in has to get out of their car, punch in a code, drive through a gate, for like a couple hundred yards. So when guests come, when people come to our open night, we either have to have someone outside waiting for them, or we have to get them the code ahead of time. It's kind of a nightmare, which is another reason we're moving.
Yeah. Well, awesome successes, everybody. We've got a lot to be thankful for this year. I hope you're able to enjoy the holiday with your family and friends. We will be on with you again Wednesday, December 19th, 2012 at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And hopefully by then we'll have worked out this whole Google Live Hangout event thing so that it all works like magic. With that, I'm going to bid you farewell and thank you very much. If you need help, if you need assistance from us, please don't hesitate to call. My phone number is in the agenda. Email us, send us a DM. We will do whatever it takes to make you successful and keep this thing rolling. And I want to thank you all very much for joining us this month, and keep making.
Sweet. Thank you, James.
You guys have a wonderful holiday. We'll talk to you again in a month.
Bye. Have a good evening, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.